So it's the dreaded end of the quarter meeting. The numbers are up on the screen, the revenue line has gone frustratingly flat, or, maybe it's actively dipping.
Yeah, never a fun place to be.
No, not at all. The temperature in the room just completely drops.
Yeah.
And then almost predictably, everybody slowly turns their heads to just glare at the marketing department.
It's the ultimate corporate reflex, really.
Yeah.
I mean, the second sales slow down, the immediate assumption across the entire boardroom is that the company simply needs more leads.
Right.
The narrative just writes itself, like the ad copy must be stale, or the content isn't reaching enough eyeballs, or maybe market demand is just completely dried up.
Okay, let's unpack this, because that knee-jerk reaction, demanding that marketing go out there and manufacture more attention, is usually masking the real disease here.
Oh, absolutely.
So welcome to today's deep dive. Today, we are pulling from this really fascinating piece of analysis by Stella Pop titled More to Marketing Than Leads. And for you listening, our mission today is to explore the hidden mechanics of why business growth actually stalls out.
Right. What's really happening under the hood?
Exactly. We're looking at the reality of what happens when companies try to solve a revenue slump by just blindly pouring more money into the top of the funnel. Because as it turns out, the core problem is rarely about getting the phone to ring.
Yeah, if you look closely at these struggling companies, a completely different reality emerges. I mean, many of them are already receiving a steady flow of inquiries.
I have traffic.
Right. They have website forms being submitted, referral traffic coming in, people explicitly requesting meetings. The core premise we really have to reframe here is that marketing's primary job is simply to create awareness.
Right.
It acts as a magnet, attracting interest and giving a prospective customer a reason to raise their hand in the first place. But marketing is biologically incapable of converting leads on its own.
It can't close the deal.
Exactly. The crisis isn't lead generation. It is entirely about what happens mechanically the second after that lead enters the building.
It's basically a massive math problem that leadership teams just completely ignore. So let's say your business currently generates 50 inbound inquiries a month.
Okay, 50 leads.
Right. But your internal team, like your day-to-day operations, only has the bandwidth, the organization, or honestly just the sheer discipline to properly follow up on 25 of them.
Wow, yes.
You are already dropping half your pipeline on the floor.
Which means the other 25 prospects are just, they're drifting into the void. I mean, they requested a quote, they asked for a demo, and they are being met with total silence.
So what happens when that panic management team demands more leads? You double the marketing budget, you crank up the paid ad spend on Google or LinkedIn, and suddenly
you have 100 leads.
Exactly. You are bringing in 100 inquiries a month. The marketing team is popping champagne, right?
Yeah, they did their job.
But your sales team's capacity hasn't magically changed. You are still only equipped to handle 25 conversations.
Right.
You haven't solved your revenue problem. You've just spent a small fortune to create 75 human beings who will now have a distinctly negative view of your brand because you ignored them. You just bought more water to pour into a bucket that is completely missing its bottom.
The irony is how leadership usually tries to fix that missing bottom, though. Instead of looking at human behavior, they just throw money at technology.
Oh, always.
The Stella Pop text highlights this incredibly common scenario.
Mm-hmm.
A business realizes they're dropping leads, right? So they decide to upgrade to a massive enterprise-grade customer relationship management system.
Like a CRM.
Yeah, CRM, like HubSpot or Salesforce. And they assume that buying a sophisticated piece of software will just magically manifest an operational process.
Wait, I want to push back on this for a second, because companies spend tens of thousands of dollars, sometimes hundreds of thousands, implementing these CRMs.
Oh, easily.
So are you saying a business can invest that kind of capital into state-of-the-art software and it actually ends up making them look worse internally if they don't have their act together?
What's fascinating here is that it acts like a fluorescent light in a dirty kitchen.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It illuminates every single piece of dysfunction. This is a crucial takeaway from the analysis. I mean, from the outside, if you just look at the raw revenue numbers, marketing looks like a total failure.
Right.
But if an auditor were to log into that shiny new CRM, they would see all those hard-won opportunities sitting right there on the dashboard. They are inside the database, but they are completely untouched.
Because buying a database doesn't force anyone to actually use it.
Precisely. No one knows which sales rep is supposed to claim the new arrival. No one knows what the designated next step is, so the leads just sit there and rot.
Yeah.
A CRM is fundamentally just a digital filing cabinet. It is not a growth strategy. When a company implements a massive platform without having a rigorously defined human process dictating how that platform must be used.
The software doesn't fix the chaos.
Exactly. It just gives you a highly organized, very expensive, high-definition view of your own internal chaos.
Okay, so if the expensive software isn't the savior here, we have to look at the human beings punching the keys. What is actually breaking down in the day-to-day psychology and operations of a sales team?
Well, it starts with a massive fracturing of information. Even with a beautiful CRM sitting right there on their desktop, human beings will naturally gravitate toward the path of least resistance.
Right.
Sales reps often find CRM data entry tedious, so they manage their active leads through a patchwork of, shadow systems.
Oh, we've seen this.
Right. They use their individual email inboxes, personal Excel spreadsheets, sticky notes on their monitors, or they just rely on their own memory.
Which is terrifying from a management perspective. I mean, if a rep gets sick or leaves the company, that knowledge completely evaporates.
It's gone. And it means nobody in leadership has a complete, truthful view of the pipeline. The source material establishes a very simple litmus test for this, actually.
Okay, what is it?
A functional system must be able to instantly answer 3 baseline questions about any prospect. First, who is this person?
Right.
Second, who internally owns the next action? And third, exactly what needs to happen next. If you click on a contact in your system, and you cannot answer those 3 questions in under 5 seconds, your operational process is fundamentally broken.
Wow. Under 5 seconds. And I think that brokenness leads directly into a massive failure regarding intent.
Oh, absolutely.
This is where I see companies shooting themselves in the foot every single day. They treat every contact in their database as if they're the exact same species of buyer.
They flatten the context.
They completely flatten it. Like you have someone who absentmindedly downloaded a free PDF guide on your website 6 months ago while they were eating a sandwich.
Right. Very low intent.
Exactly. But on the other end of the spectrum, you have someone who just submitted a highly detailed, 500-word pricing inquiry asking for a meeting tomorrow. If your sales team is dumping both of those people into the exact same automated generic follow-up sequence, it is absurd. It's the business equivalent of proposing marriage on a first date while simultaneously ignoring the person who has been begging you to move in together.
It captures the dynamic perfectly. A casual newsletter subscription and an urgent consultation request represent totally different psychological states.
Completely.
But why does this happen? Well, it happens because marketing and sales rarely sit down to forge shared definitions. If they haven't mathematically defined what constitutes a sales qualified lead versus a marketing qualified lead, they will just constantly be at war.
Because they're speaking different languages.
Right. Marketing thinks they are handing over absolute gold, and the sales team is frustrated because they feel like they are being forced to call casual window shoppers.
But even if a rep correctly identifies that a prospect has high intent, it doesn't matter if they take 3 days to send an email. We have to talk about the sheer speed of the modern buyer.
Oh, it is a brutal reality. When a potential customer finally decides to fill out a form on your website, you have to understand their environment.
Yeah.
They are not sitting in a vacuum, patiently waiting for your specific brand to bless them with a response. They have multiple tabs open. They're actively shopping your competitors at that exact moment.
So true.
If someone requests pricing and hears absolutely nothing from your team for hours or days, the dopamine of their initial interest just completely dissipates.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. If a general inquiry isn't answered the same business day, or if a specific demo request isn't answered in a matter of minutes, the game is usually over.
It's done.
By the time your rep finally gets around to sipping their coffee, opening the CRM, and typing out a friendly email, a competitor has already answered the prospect's questions, established a human connection, and booked a meeting.
Yeah.
You didn't lose because your product was inferior. You lost because you were functionally absent.
And this brings us to one of the most insidious psychological traps in sales, which the text calls the phenomenon of the one unanswered email.
Oh, yeah. Think about how easy it is for a busy, stressed out sales rep to fire off one quick check-in email on a Thursday afternoon.
Right.
They get no reply from the prospect by Monday morning. So what does the rep do? They mentally categorize that lead as dead.
Exactly.
They drag the name over to the closed lost column because it just clears their mental load. They rationalize it by saying, well, I reached out, they didn't answer, they clearly aren't interested.
It is a form of operational self-soothing,
Mm.
but consider the reality on the other end of that email. The prospect is a human being.
Right.
They might have been pulled into an emergency meeting. Their kid might be sick. They might have just missed the notification. Assuming that silence equals a hard rejection is a catastrophic operational failure.
Because it places the burden of persistence on the buyer rather than the seller.
Exactly why a business has to mathematically structure its follow-up. You cannot rely on a rep's mood or their memory. The rules have to be hard-coded into the culture.
What does that look like in practice?
It means asking, how many specific attempts will be made before we walk away? 6, 8.
Wow, okay.
What channels are we using? Are we alternating between an email, a phone call, and a LinkedIn message? How many hours or days pass between each touch point? If a business fails to define these exact parameters, they are letting qualified revenue vanish into thin air just because a prospect happened to be away from their desk on a Tuesday morning.
That is so painful to think about when you add all these internal failures up. The chaotic spreadsheets, the generic messaging that ignores intent, the agonizingly slow response times, the reps giving up after a single email. Imagine what that looks like to the person actually trying to give you their money.
It looks terrible.
We tend to view lead management as this hidden back office mechanical function, but it bleeds out into the real world. It completely dictates the customer experience.
Because the prospect is evaluating your overall competence from the second they hit submit on your web form.
Right.
Marketing might have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars designing a brilliant, emotionally resonant, highly polished ad campaign that creates a feeling of premium trust.
And then?
But if that prospect finally gets a rep on a Zoom call, and the rep makes them repeat all the basic information they already typed into the contact form, well, the illusion shatters.
It's gone.
The entire company instantly looks disorganized and amateurish. Marketing creates the promise, but human operations determine if that promise actually holds up under scrutiny.
It's like being lured into a luxury boutique by a gorgeous window display. But when you walk through the doors, the shelves are a mess, the lighting is flickering, and the staff has no idea where the inventory is.
And that contrast is incredibly jarring for a buyer.
So if you're the CEO or a department head watching the revenue drop, you can't just guess if your reps are being lazy or if your ads are actually missing the mark. You need undeniable proof before you start firing agencies or restructuring teams.
How do we actually measure this chaos?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to replace the cycle of boardroom blame with cold, hard data.
Okay.
The StelPop text outlines a very specific diagnostic tool for this. The 30 to 60-day pipeline autopsy.
An autopsy. I love that phrasing.
It fits. You have to temporarily stop looking at the macro revenue line, open up the CRM, and forensically examine the micro life cycle of the leads generated over the last 2 months.
And for you listening, this isn't just a casual glance. You are hunting for very specific evidence of operational failure. So first, you look for the ghosts in the machine. Unassigned leads.
The worst kind.
Right. These are the easiest opportunities to lose because literally no one is accountable for them. They bypass the routing rules and just float in the digital ether.
Yeah. Then you move to response times. And this requires brutal honesty. When a deal was marked in the system as unqualified, you have to check the timestamps.
Oh, that's smart.
Was the person actually a bad fit for your product, or did your team reply a week too late?
Right. By the time your rep said hello, the prospect had already solved their problem with a competitor, so they told your rep they weren't interested. It is incredibly easy to label a lead as garbage when you let it spoil on the counter for 5 days.
So true. Next, you dig into the activity logs to hunt for those one-and-done emails we just talked about. You are looking for reps who are giving up after a single touch point.
Exactly.
Are leads being dismissed simply because the team lacks the discipline to execute a multi-week follow-up sequence?
You also need to examine stalled opportunities. You are looking for deals that have been sitting in the exact same stage of your pipeline. Let's say the proposal sent stage for a month with zero recent activity.
Just crickets.
Right. When you see a traffic jam like that, it almost always points to unclear handoffs between team members, or maybe a rep who just doesn't know how to navigate a complex negotiation, so they just avoid it.
Finally, you check for source ignorance. Does the sales team actually know what specific marketing campaign the prospect clicked on?
Usually not.
Yeah. If marketing just spent a fortune running a promotion for a highly specific new service, and the sales rep gets on the phone and just delivers their standard boilerplate company pitch without ever referencing the promotion.
You have a massive internal disconnect.
Massive.
The right hand has no idea what the left hand is doing, and the prospect feels entirely unheard.
But I have to ask the essential question here. If I'm a business owner and I run this rigorous autopsy on my sales team's behavior, isn't there a risk of just giving marketing a free pass?
How do you mean?
Like, if I'm the CEO, I might be thinking, great, my operations are a little messy, but maybe my marketing team is actually just sending me irrelevant traffic. Maybe they are sending me college students looking for internships instead of actual buyers. How do we make sure operations isn't taking the fall for a fundamentally bad ad strategy?
See, that is exactly why you run the autopsy. It isolates the variables.
Yeah.
It doesn't give anyone a free pass. It proves undeniably where the fault lies. Consider the alternative scenario. Let's say you run this 30 to 60-day audit, and the data shows that your sales team is operating flawlessly.
Okay.
There are 0 unassigned leads. Response times are consistently under 20 minutes. Every single prospect receives a rigorous multi-channel follow-up sequence over 3 weeks. The handoffs are incredibly smooth. And despite all of that operational excellence,
Your conversion rate is still sitting at 0.
exactly. Then you have nowhere else to point the finger.
Right.
Then you have concrete mathematical proof that the inbound leads themselves are the problem. Then you know for an absolute fact that you have a demand generation issue, and marketing needs to overhaul their targeting or their messaging.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
But until you actually fix and measure the human operational process, you can never accurately judge the quality of the marketing. You were just guessing in the dark.
You can't blame the recipe if you keep burning the food in the oven every single time. You have to make sure the oven works first. So what does this all mean for you listening right now? The core takeaway from this deep dive is that sustainable, long-term business growth is never a one-department show.
Never.
It requires deeply aligning creative thinking, which is your marketing, your messaging, your brand identity, with operational thinking, which is your sales process, your persistence, your internal accountability. Before you spend another single dollar trying to buy more attention, you have to look inward and ensure you can actually handle the attention you already have.
Yeah. Clear ownership, lightning fast response times, and a reliable follow-up cadence will do more to improve your conversion rates than a massive increase in your marketing budget ever could.
I want you to think about your own business right now. Think about your personal inbox or your company's CRM. If you opened it up today, are there opportunities sitting there right now, silently decaying, simply because the next step was never clearly defined? Are you paying to pour water into a leaky bucket?
Which, brings up a really fascinating consideration about where the entire business landscape is heading next.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. As artificial intelligence advances, we might soon reach a point where AI flawlessly handles all the marketing, the content creation, and the initial lead generation.
That's entirely possible.
Everything at the top of the funnel could become entirely automated, completely frictionless, and incredibly cheap. But if every company has access to automated leads, doesn't it mean that a rigorous, highly attentive, truly human follow-up process will become the ultimate luxury differentiator for a brand?
Oh, wow.
In a world where the top of the funnel is run by machines, human operations might be the only true competitive advantage left on the table.
That is an incredibly provocative thought to leave on. The more automated the world gets, the more valuable a well-organized human connection becomes. Don't let your next great opportunity slip through a broken internal process. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you on the next one.